If you're looking at energy stocks in the Philippines, malamang narinig mo na ang SGP. Ano nga ba ang SGP? SGP is a holding company. Yung value niya comes from its stake in the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines or NGCP. In this video, pag-uusapan natin ang SGP. Recently, Dragonfly added SGP to their dividend harvest portfolio. Maganda nga bang mag-invest sa SGP? Worth it ba siya for dividend investors like me? Let's find out. For background, SGP owns 40.2% of NGCP and it controls 60% of its voting rights through its subsidiaries, ang Monte Oro Grid Resources Corporation and Calaca High Power Corporation. The remaining 40% of NGCP is owned by State Grid Corporation of China. NGCP ang exclusive operator of power transmission network in the Philippines. Meron siyang 25-year concession until 2034 to manage the high voltage grid. NGCP does not generate electricity. Ang role niya is to transmit electricity from power plants to distribution utilities, gaya ng Meralco, via high voltage transmission lines. Monopoly ang NGCP. It runs the entire transmission grid in the Philippines. Every time electricity flows through those high voltage wire, NGCP charges a fee. Ito yung transmission charge na nakikita sa electric bill mo. Regulated business ito. The government via ERC sets the maximum revenue they are allowed to earn. NGCP earns money from transmission charges, while SGP naman earns money through its stake in NGCP. So, investing in SGP is the only way for the public to invest in the national grid. Before I continue, quick shoutout muna sa mga bagong YouTube channel members ko. Kay MZ, Dante, Shadsgo, Melissa, Ella Camp, and CP Andrew. Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat for joining as channel members and supporting my YouTube channel. Next, let's check the financial performance of SGP. Ang performance ng SGP ay nakadepende sa performance ng NGCP. SGP has a market cap of 88 billion pesos. If you look at the revenue and earnings history ng SGP, nag-grow ang revenue from 2019 to 2022. However, bumaba ang revenue noong 2023 and same revenue lang siya noong 2024 at 53 billion pesos. Nagkaroon ng regulatory and operational challenges ang NGCP that time. Pinagmulta sila ng ERC ng 15.8 million pesos for unjustified delays in projects. 34 out of 35 capital expenditure projects were found to have unjustified delays. Kaya sila nagmulta. In terms of profitability, consistently positive ang earnings per share ng SGP. Profitable ang SGP, pero bumaba nga lang ang earnings noong 2023 and 2024. If you look at the first 9 months ng 2025, tumaas ang revenue and earnings ng SGP year on year. However, ang third quarter earnings ay mas mababa versus same period last year. Operating cash flow is consistently positive, which is very good. Ito yung cash inflow na natatanggap ng SGP mula sa NGCP. In terms of financial health, mataas ang utang ng SGP. It has a high debt-to-equity ratio of 129%. However, mataas ang interest coverage ratio niya at 4 times, meaning the company earns 4 times its interest expense, so it can comfortably meet its debt obligations despite the high leverage. Here's the dividend history of SGP. Hindi consistent ang dividend payment schedule niya, pati na rin yung dividend per share, paiba-iba. Noong 2022, nagbigay siya ng quarterly dividends. And then noong 2023, naging 3 times a year. And then 2024, once lang siya nagbigay. At ngayong 2025, 2 times nagbigay ng dividends noong September at December. The reason why Dragonfly added SGP to their dividend harvest portfolio is because SGP may be moving towards a quarterly dividend distribution based dito sa latest dividend declaration nila. Hindi pa sigurado, so malalaman natin next year around February or March kung magdi-declare ulit ng cash dividend for the first quarter quarter of 2026. Hindi consistent ang annual dividends ng SGP. Pinakamataas na binigay niya ay noong 2022 kasi mataas ang earnings ng SGP at that time. And then bumaba noong 2023 and 2024 due to lower profitability ng SGP ng time na yan. And then tumaas ulit ngayong 2025. Magtuloy-tuloy na kaya ang quarterly dividends? Yan ang aabangan natin. Dividend yield ay 4.43% and dividend payout ratio is 32.34%. So healthy ang kanyang dividend payout ratio. Kung maging quarterly next year ang dividend payment schedule ng SGP, pwedeng maging 8% pataas ang dividend yield niya. Sigurado yan, tataas na ang share price. Early this year, Maharlika Investment Corporation, which manages the Maharlika Investment Fund, signed an agreement with SGP to acquire 20% stake in SGP. The transaction will subscribe to the preferred shares offered by SGP and will obtain 2 board seats out of 9 board seats of SGP. Pero pending pa rin siya hanggang ngayon as of the making of this video. Hindi pa rin siya done deal. So isa rin ito sa aabangan natin sa 2026. Let's talk about the risk of investing in SGP. Since SGP's business is fundamentally tied to NGCP, the investment risks are unique and concentrated in the regulatory and political environments. SGP's performance depends on NGCP. SGP receives income from NGCP through its ownership stake. If NGCP's income drops, bababa rin ang earnings ng SGP. Pangalawa, regulatory risk. NGCP is a natural monopoly. It's the sole operator of the national power grid. So walang competition to keep prices low. To protect consumers, the Energy Regulatory Commission regulates NGCP's revenue through a process called the rate reset. So merong authority ang ERC to audit and challenge every expense that NGCP proposes. Kapag nag-decide ang ERC na unnecessary or sobra-sobra ang isang expense like certain capital projects, pwedeng hindi nila ito i-approve. At kapag nagkaroon ng delays sa capital expenditure projects, pwede rin silang pagmultahin ng ERC. So this can affect NGCP's profitability, which can also directly impact SGP's earnings. Pangatlo, political risk. 40% of NGCP is owned by the State Grid Corporation of China. Kaya ang NGCP has been under intense scrutiny from lawmakers. Yung ibang officials nagtithreaten na i-revoke nila yung franchise if national security concerns are not addressed. So these are the risks that you need to consider pag gusto mong mag-invest sa SGP. Reminder, this is for informational purposes only. Hindi ito recommendation to buy this stock. Okay? In terms of valuation, price to book ratio is 0.8 times and PE ratio is 7 times. This could indicate na undervalued ang SGP. Ang buy below price ng Dragonfly is 16.4 pesos. I calculated the intrinsic value using PhilTown's valuation method. Kaya lang mababa ang nakuha ko intrinsic value based on SGP's historical earnings and growth rates. Nasa 11 pesos lang ang nakuha ko intrinsic value. And I checked sa Simply Wall Street, ang fair value niya is 13 pesos. You can follow the buy below price of Dragonfly and use it as guide. It's up to you. Mag-invest ba ako sa SGP? Pwedeng test the waters muna at mag-aabang sa mga susunod na mangyayari. How about you? Anong masasabi mo sa SGP? Interested ka bang mag-invest sa SGP or meron ka na sa portfolio mo? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.